Hey, so today I'm going to be talking about working with other musicians, the do's and don'ts. So let's get into it. So first things first, the do's. These are the things that you want to do when you're working with musicians. So if you know you're going to be working with them for a lengthy period of time, you know you're going to be working with them for a series of projects, you want to try and develop a relationship with them where there's that mutual liking, so that when you ask them to work on a project or you're talking to them, there's no disdain and everyone actually wants to be there and everyone's going to put their best effort in. Developing relationships with the musicians that you're with is important because it also means that they're going to want to work with you again. I think the worst possible thing that could happen is if you work with someone once, they get a bad impression of you and then that's it. That's the way they see you from now on. And that leads me into my second point. Give them something cool to work on. I know that when we're working on new music in Myoora, we're always considering the other instruments and we're considering how the other people play. Like we get Jacob Umansky on bass, we get Nathan Buller on drums, and we have Randy Slaw doing orchestration. And even though a lot of the time we're doing, draft bass, draft drums, draft orchestral instruments, we're always considering where each individual will bring their own style, their own skills and their own playing to the song. And I think at the end of the day, everyone really appreciates that, and the result is always good, where there's never been a time where as a band we've been unhappy with what they've produced. And I think that's because we're always trying to give them the best quality music that we can. That leads me into this point. At the end of the day, everyone is professionals. If there's something you don't like, if there's something you want to change, just be honest. I don't think there could be very much worse than someone producing something that maybe isn't to your liking and you don't want to offend them or you don't want to question it, so you just leave it and you're just unhappy with it from then on. If you're unhappy with something, you should question it, amend it, change it, just be honest with them. At the end of the day, the people that you work with are professionals, they are good at their jobs, they know exactly what they're doing. So maybe they had a different idea to how a part played out than you, but I think it's just really, really important that being honest the whole time, which will allow for a really good end product. Now, let's look at the don'ts. Don't give someone something when you've just met them, something that's not ready. And when I say not ready, I mean don't ask a mix engineer if they'll mix something in 6 months' time when they can't even tell if it's good quality, when it's like a scratch demo, not even like completed. I've learned this the hard way before Myoora was properly, a thing. Sending demos to mix engineers and people just being like, no, no, no. Firstly, it doesn't feel nice. Secondly, you are wasting their time. Sending them something that's not ready isn't professional on your end, and it's mainly a nuisance on their end. So we never send anything to mix engineers until it's 100% they could mix it today. Like, that's what I'm talking about. The only time I would say send demos to people is when you're getting other people's input. And when I say input, I mean, for example, with Randy, might send him a track that's not tracked yet completely, but we want to get his input on a certain section because we know at some point he's going to be doing some writing and orchestration over that. So that's different to sending an engineer something that's not ready and then asking them to commit to a certain period of time in the year to do that job, because more often than not you'll be rejected, and that's not great. Don't hassle these musicians. These guys are pros. If you give them a deadline when you give them your song, they'll more than often get to it. I know instances of people where, people are late and it's annoying, it's frustrating, I've dealt with it, but you have to be professional at the end of the day. You can't get angry at people for no reason. You just have to be polite, courteous about it, and you have to enforce that, we need it by now. Just don't hassle them every single day for something. It's also important that if someone says they don't want to work on your project, they don't want to do a guest solo or they don't want to mix it, don't constantly message over and over and over again about that same release to do it. If you want to reapproach that person at a later time for a later release, I think that's okay. And we've done that. We've had musicians that were too busy to do one project and we're like, that's fine, and then we've approached them in a later date for a different release, and then they took it on and it went really well. So I think that's okay. But if someone can't do it or they don't want to do it, don't hassle them, don't pressure them, don't force them to do it. At the end of the day, it's just one less thing that they're going to get to work on. And if you don't get to work with them now, you may not, but sometimes you will. So it's not the end of the world. Finally, even though doing music is a lot of people's passion, I love doing it just for the sake of doing it. You need to remember that everyone has rates, everyone expects some form of payment for their jobs, because I know when you do a solo, you do tutoring, do writing, it's not easy, it takes time, it's hard. So if you're a musician approaching another musician about a job, don't expect them to do it for free, don't expect them to do it for cheaper, and don't bargain with them. At the end of the day, you need to remember that these people have livelihoods too. They need to support themselves, sometimes they need to support families. So if they have a rate and you want them, just pay it, because most of the time if you're approaching someone, they're pros and you know what they're going to be doing. Otherwise you're just putting them out and you're making yourself look bad, and probably they'll end up rejecting if you won't pay, and that just won't be great for the project as a whole. So if someone has a rate, just do it, because if you want them, more often than not, they're going to suit the song really well, they're going to help the release. So yeah, those are some of my do's and don'ts for working with other musicians. So if you have any questions, let us know in the comments. We'll be replying, no stress. Thanks.